Hello Saxo fans, episode 67, you join me back in the garage. Right, whew, making myself dizzy. Okay, picking up right from where we left off episode 66. So, I have my new heater matrix on the bench there. I've given the heater box a bit of a clean over, just chucked it through my parts cleaner. So it's a bit not quite so nasty to work with. That's the first job, is to get all that put back together, get that put back in the car and fill it back up with coolant, and then all of that can be sort of forgotten about and we can think about trimming the dash. So that's essentially what we're going to be aiming at this episode, is getting the interior back together. And obviously the carpet, we need to sort that out, clean it, dye it, fit it, cut it, all that stuff. So yeah, without further ado then, let's get on with fitting that heater matrix to the box. Right, I'm going to attempt to try and film this, but it's going to be almost impossible. So if the footage is terrible, then I apologise. What I'm going to try and do is get my hoses on here and clamped this side, and then obviously push them through. One of them can come through quite a way, this one not so much. In fact, this one I'm going to go and unclamp from the other side, and then yeah, put that on. I've put a little bit of grease around the rubber here just so it sort of slips through that hole a bit easier, and then once that's in, it's just a case of getting this vent hooked up properly and bolted in. So let me go feed that through, and then that'll make life a little bit easier. Right, forgive the slightly jaunty camera angle, you're looking up underneath the dash, but what I found out was that after getting those two hoses on, getting that rubber in from this side is impossible. So took it all off again and went round the other side and fitted the rubber. Because I've greased these, the tubes actually go through relatively easy, so I've got this rubber fitted again. Obviously I gave it a clean up before it went in. So I think heater matrix through, and I'm just going to have to struggle like I did taking the hoses off with putting them back on. But I think I might Jubilee clip them rather than those spring clips, because it's just the axis is the problem. So let's try again, feeding that in, and hopefully should be all right this time. Obviously trying my hardest not to break the plastic. Right then, that is a heater matrix and the heater box all back in. It's nice and tight. Better than it was before. I don't think it was fixed in from the top before. I don't remember taking the bolt out there, but I've certainly put one back in. Anyway, so if you're doing this job, absolutely bung in from the engine bay, push the hoses and everything through from that way, and then put your hoses on. That's certainly the best way I found. I mean, don't be wrong, it was not easy. There was much swearing in the background, but yeah, that's all done. And I promise you, and I really hope that is the last time that we see the heater matrix in this episode. So I will now fill it with coolant. I won't bore you with that, but obviously pop some coolant in the header tank. Next thing is to think about stripping this dash. So it was obviously all flocked by myself. the finish is okay, you know, it's not perfect, but it's not horrible. So we need to, I have done a little practice piece. I could just trim straight over the top of that, but I don't think it'd last. So I'm going to strip all this back. So cue the time lapse of me stripping this and getting all this fluff everywhere. Right then, join me in the kitchen. So I figure I'll do it in here just because I can get all around the island and it's at the right height, so I'm not going to be struggling on the floor. So obviously dash is under here, I've cut a piece that's about the right size. This is going to be tricky. Yeah, I think I've just had a quick look and just to see where some of the kinks are going to form, and it's mainly going to be around where the instrument cluster here, the curve of that is, and then of course the 90-degree steps over the side. But other than that, it's generally just a sort of steady curve, so it's only really this bit that deviates from that, so it should be pretty straightforward from there. Obviously I've got the vent here for the screen to cut through, centre console, glove box, and then steering wheel column and cluster holes to put through. So yeah, I don't think there's any easy way of doing this. The only problem with this stuff is once you've glued it, the foam, that if you try and pull it away, the foam sticks to the glue and the material pulls away from it. So it is very much a one-hit wonder. But we'll have a go. I mean, I can always order some more of this. I have got a whole bunch left. I don't quite know how much. I don't know if I'd have enough to do it twice. We'll have to see. Anyway, let's give it a go, shall we? Going to enlist the help of Mrs. Project Saxo to give me a hand, which obviously she's delighted about. Right then, Saxo fans, there we go. So that probably took about 3 hours. So the question is, am I happy with it? Absolutely. I think it is 1,000 times better than the flock that I had on there. Obviously, being a material, it's completely even. Is it perfect? No. So there's a couple of things. Number one, if I zoom in on this, there's a little crease here, which we didn't really notice until it had dried, but we could have easily have pulled that out, so that's a shame. We had to put a join here because all the material sort of naturally wanted to bunch together here, so there was no way around, you know, having it all nice over this end without putting a seam in. But obviously I put that in at a nice low point where it probably wouldn't be seen. And then naturally it wants to bunch up in these corners. But given that this is sort of tucked away right up in the corner, you're not really going to see it. But yeah, I mean, it is nice. And obviously now we can do fancy dealer marks. You know what they like to do with the carpet. I mean, it is a lovely material. It feels really, really good. Obviously, I've just popped the centre console in loose and the glove box is in loose. But you get the idea. Yeah, it looks really nice. I'm really pleased with it. So that's ready to go in. We'll just leave that to one side. I've got all the other little bits and bobs to do, so I'll get those done. Just noticed I haven't cut the hole here either, so I'll do that in a sec. Which is looking good. One other thing, top tip, with the spray adhesive that I'm using, occasionally when you stop using this, the nozzle gets a bit blocked and you come to spray it and it goes in any direction. So spray it in the cap first, and then if you do get any on the trim where you don't want it, don't rub it. Let it dry and then it will just peel straight off. There's a couple of places where I've rubbed it and it doesn't look the best. So yeah, top tip, if you're going to do this and you get overspray, leave it and it can come off when it's dry. Right, Saxo fans, so back in the garage, time to get the carpet fitted. I really want to get this out of the way because I've been walking all over it and it's getting dirtier and dirtier. So we need to get some bits and bobs out the way to facilitate this. So some of the wiring just needs to lift up, that's fine. I need to clear out a load of tools. And most importantly, I think I need to move my fuel lines. What I'm going to do is just undo them from the bulkhead and just sort of lift them back and tuck them back out of the way. And then hopefully everything will just lift over. That's certainly the intention. The only tricky bit might be the sat shift. Yeah, we'll have to have a little look at that. And then of course I've got sort of my battery cables running down here as well. So we'll have to cross that bridge. But for now, what I'm going to do is just empty the car out and then attempt to lift the carpet in through this door. That's the plan anyway. Let's give it a go. Right, we're as clear as we are going to be. So I think there's no substitute just for trying to wrestle this carpet in, yeah, as best we possibly can. Yeah, there's going to be some tricky bits, obviously, but yeah, let's just wrestle it in. Have a go. Right, got to about there, and I think it's the handbrake that's stopping it going down. Now, I've actually not put one of these in before, so I'm sure there's people that have got these that are looking at the TV going, "Ah, do that, you idiot." I'm sure it's really straightforward, but the whole thing just needs to go forward basically, but the handbrake is stopping that a little bit. So, I'm just going to unbolt the handbrake and see if that helps. Right, sit rep. So, a couple of bits that I think I need to trim. This obviously was always going to be the way, so obviously for the sat shift there, because the whole thing still needs to go forward a little bit, I think. And then where the sat shift goes through the bulkhead up there. So, yeah, and I think then the whole thing can slide forward a bit and it'll go in. And then I can think about cutting out for the cage. but it's not a million miles away, so that's good. Right, got a bit carried away, didn't film that. If anybody's ever done any YouTube stuff, by the way, you'll understand that remembering to film everything is a real problem. Anyway, I've cut around there, nice and neat, and I've cut a square out around there, so that's all good. They're sort of lined up with the clips, which obviously I need to get. So it's just the back now, and obviously trimming around the cage. So I'm going to really take my time and make that as neat as possible, and then it's just a case of sorting out these bits. Obviously I need to get all the clips and everything, but yeah, it's basically there. Right, what I've realised is that the straps for the seat belts, this side obviously just screwed into a thread. On the inside they're nut and bolted, so just need to get underneath and undo both of those from here, and then obviously I'll have to cut a little hole in the carpet to allow those back through. Yeah. Oh, fitting carpet's hard work. We'll get there. Right, we got there in the end. So, carpet for now is basically done. I've ordered a load of the little metal clips that hold this down to the sill, both sides, and the ones for the bulkhead that hold it against the bulkhead there. So, they're on their way. Obviously, there's not a lot I can do until they come. The only other thing that I haven't done yet is to trim it for the roll cage at the front, but I'll do that. I'll put the bars in, cut round it, and then yeah, we'll trim that. Probably the last thing I do actually when the interior is all finished. So the next thing is to sort out some of the other gauge stuff. I need to put some supporting mods in for those. So we'll do that. Once all that's all working and confirmed, we can put the dash in. Cool, let's get on with it. Right, up next then is to do a little bit of modification in the engine bay. So this is all to support a stack oil pressure gauge, which is going in, and it's an electronic gauge. So I need to take a pressure feed from somewhere. Now, on my engine, I'm limited because if I zoom in to the cylinder head there, I don't know if you can just see, below that big P is a ball bearing. Now, getting those out is a pain. I don't really want to be doing that, especially not on an engine that I'm not prepared to take out. So what I'd like to do really is have a cylinder head that's got one of those caps in there, but mine doesn't, so I'm going to have to take it from a feed down the front where my turbo feed already comes from. So I've bought some stuff. Let me show you what I'm going to do. Right, this is my solution then for obtaining a second oil feed to feed the gauge. So traditionally I've been running this Spooks Oil Genie, which gives you a little T-piece off this main gallery for turbo oil feed. This goes to the gauge light. So what I'm going to do is very simply put an adapter in here to space this up. I'll just sort of place it together loose just for demonstration and pop that in the top. So no real change, and obviously off to the turbo as normal, but that gives me a second port here. Now the only tricky thing is really this sender unit is pretty big, so I could put that straight in there, but obviously you can see this is a bit of a contraption. It's quite big. Tucking it in behind the block and everything is just going to be awkward. So I figure what I'm going to do is just relocate this, just move it somewhere else in the engine bay that's more accessible. So to do that, I need to convert this thread here, as I said, 1/8 27 MPT to AN4, standard AN4 pipe fitting, obviously bit of pipe, to another standard AN4 pipe fitting, to an AN4 to 1/8 27 MPT thread on the sender. Job's a good one. So that'll plug in there. That'll get relocated wherever I want with a bit of hose. So that's nice and easy. That'll work. So I'm going to get all this buttoned up. I'm going to attempt to film me putting it back in the engine bay because it is super tight in there. I might have to get my other camera for that. But yeah, let's get this sorted and then we can figure out where this is going to live. Well, that little fitting setup is all in, so hopefully you can just about see it there. There we go, the Turbo Genie coming out the top. Jobs are good in, and an alternate view. There we go, we can see what's going on there. So my feed line comes out here, put a bit of heat wrap around it. Up here for now, just cut it to length and put a hose fitting on it. We'll end up tucking it down in that corner somewhere out of the way. So that side of things is done. I do now need to carry on with some of the interior bits. Yeah, essentially getting the pressure feed from the sender unit to the gauge. That's the next thing. Right, with all the wiring done, very quickly just fired the car up. We have oil pressure. Jobs are good and EGT works, boost gauge works, voltage meter works. Jobs are good and we're all done. Let's put the dash in. There we go then guys, so that was a bit of a wrestle, but she's in. I've bolted it in, which I didn't show you, but obviously three bolts in the scuttle, one down here, one down there, they're the main ones, and there's one middle one just up under there, which I'll get to in a bit. But now it's just a case of sort of bolting some of the bits back in, so the vents just push in, glove box is bolted in already. Yeah, and I still need to trim a couple of bits and bobs, so I'll get to that. But yeah, I'm going to do the easy stuff first, get that out of the way, and then we'll get on to sorting out that centre console. We've still got a few little jobs left to do with getting that actually fixed into place. But she's looking pretty good. Slowly but surely getting there. Right, and Saxo fans, we're on the home stretch here. So I have put all of the trim pieces on. The only thing I haven't finished yet is the centre console, but we'll get to that. Just going to pop the steering wheel back on. There we go then, Saxo fans. We're going to call this episode done for now. I do have a few little bits and bobs left to do, but I'll do those as like shorts or something. Essentially, I just need to make a little panel that goes down here that holds the window switches, the hazard button, and my battery cutoff. That's what all these wires are down here for. These I just need to tidy up, and then obviously seats can go back in. And the centre console, I just need to make this more permanent, because at the moment this centre panel is loose. So I just need to figure a way to fix that in. But hopefully you agree with me that I think the material looks way, way better than the flock ever did. It feels really nice. Obviously, because it's sort of foam backed, it's nice. So there we go. Jobs are good, and hopefully an improvement on before and more comfortable place to be. Right, on to the next episode, and I will update you on all of this stuff at the start of the next one. But yeah, the next one is going to be an interesting one. I won't tell you what it is yet. Obviously, want to build the suspense, but tune in, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, really does help, and we'll see you again next time.